Hi everyone. Before we jump into today's episode, I just wanted to remind you all about the event we are having at the Satara showroom here in Sydney on the 19th of September. It's going to be a live recording of the Design Dialogues podcast, and I will be joined by Sally Rhys-Jones, Lynne Bradley and Gemma Gillett. It's going to be such a fun evening. We're going to talk about all things interior design, and I really hope that you can join us. I've put the link to buy your free ticket in the show notes. It's going to be a great evening, so I hope that you can join us.
I think with anything that I try and do like the best possible thing you can. Particularly with Australian made, you're inherently going to be a little bit higher in the price range. Yeah. So I just felt like if you're trying to offer something that's really beautiful, probably should have it really functional and just like every box is ticked.
Hi, I'm Beth Beesky, the founder of More Time to Design and your host of the Design Dialogues podcast. I've been a designer for the last 12 years and I've run my own studio for 5. And I know how hard it is to run a successful business. You not only need to be great at designing, but you need to be great at all the other things as well. I created More Time to Design, a software platform to help designers run efficient studios, and I've created the Design Dialogue podcast to help us all learn together. Each week, we will meet professionals who are at the top of their game doing things that help us run our studios. We'll have conversations with social media managers, interior design mentors, copywriters, stylists, photographers, suppliers, and also designers who have been in the game for a long time and who have such a wealth of knowledge to share. I hope that each week you feel inspired and informed at the end of each of our design dialogues. So join me for the Design Dialogue podcast. Everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Design Dialogues podcast. And this week I am joined by Shari Lyon from Fluxwood. Hi Shari, how are you?
Hello, yeah, really good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining me. I am a big fan of Fluxwood. I've used your pendants in quite a few of my projects, so I'm really looking forward to getting to know a bit more about your business and how you start a lighting company. So
yeah, definitely.
Thank you. So I always love by starting and finding out, what can you see out your window today?
Well, I'm in the office, so we're in like the industrial area of Currumbin. So there's not much to see, unfortunately. Some other workshops, some macadamia trees. It's quite nice weather today. It's, lovely sunny day. So yeah, pretty good.
Lovely. So how did you start Fluxwood?
Well, we're about 6 years old. So it's sort of a longer story, but I grew up around my dad's business and my mum as well. They had a furniture company, so they started out doing production furniture mostly for like all solid timber, furniture for like Super A-Mart, a lot of Australian distributors like that, sometimes a little bit of Harvey Norman. So it was quite a big operation back in the day. A lot of up to 15 staff just pumping out the really, really good quality timber furniture. So I kind of grew up in that environment, in the workshop, in the office. I'd spend like my school holidays filing and stuff. Doing
a true family business.
Yeah, put to work. So I was like designing catalogs when I was 12 and doing all those, probably terrible, probably shouldn't have let me do it. But I kind of grew up with that, and I sort of obviously went through school and didn't really know what I wanted to do after high school, but ended up a roundabout way studying design. I didn't know if I wanted to do, because the course I did was 3D or graphics or fine art. It was like a kind of explore everything kind of course.
Choose your own adventure.
Yeah, kind of. And then they kind of see what you're good at and they try and grab you for the different majors and things. But I ended up leaning towards product-based design, like industrial design, it's more commonly called. So kind of was sort of more drawn to that, and with my background with Dad's furniture business that's still going today, it's that's part of the story as well. I kind of ended up wanting to. I worked for a few other businesses, a few other studios. I did work for another lighting company, Yellow Goat, who are on the Gold Coast as well. So sort of doing a bit of a lot of like CAD work and rendering for them. And yeah, I went overseas, and then I kind of came back, and I thought, for some reason, I'd really love to start a business. Terrible idea. No, it's fine. So yeah, I thought my parents have both got their own businesses. I'm a bit entrepreneurial. I sort of have that design, so I sort of brought it all together. And but I also wanted to start a separate business to what my dad does, because not to compete with him. He's amazing at it, and I couldn't jump in and build furniture. So I thought I'll do something kind of complementary to Dad's workshop, and that uses my skills. I did meet a local guy in Currumbin as well, who's a lighting specialist. So he was kind of involved early on to sort of suggest, why don't you do timber-based lighting? And that kind of just was a good focus point to just be like, this is the thing I'm going to start with and just push along. Good to have like a bit of a niche at the start. So yeah.
And so for those of you out there who don't know the Fluxwood product, can you kind of in a sentence or two describe what a Fluxwood pendant is like?
Yeah. Well, we do, so all solid timber, sort of known for being a little bit minimal, and hopefully like well designed, simple but well designed. I try and be really thoughtful with the lighting, with the light fittings, like with the timber work. So we're really known for the long linear pendants, like really good for over kitchen islands, and dining tables. So yeah, just minimal, well designed, solid timber, handmade, heaps of customization. In all the different choices.
Yeah. And it's really interesting you mentioned that you had like a lighting specialist involved in the early days, because one of the comments that I hear from my clients who we've used your lights for, they always comment about how good the light quality is. Like they're kind of almost surprised. They're like, oh, it's a beautiful pendant. And so it's almost like beautiful pendant and good lighting quality don't go together. And so is that something that you focused on? Was it kind of, I suppose, coming from your background, like industrial design, where, there's focusing on the details, was having that quality of light as important as that it looking beautiful?
Yeah, definitely. I think with anything that I try and do, you try and do like the best possible thing you can. Particularly with Australian made, you're inherently going to be a little bit higher in the price range. So I just felt like if you're trying to offer something that's really beautiful, you probably should have it really functional and just like every box is ticked. That, and the lighting quality, all the color temperatures, all that sort of customization. I think that's super important. Yeah. So I think early on, I don't know if it probably wasn't any points for me, but I just collaborated with the right people who really knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
And I was sort of led down this path of how do I make this kind of a thing, a business or a product range that kind of appeals to people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they kind of really pointed me in the right direction with what components to use, lighting components and cable and LEDs and all those things. So that was really helpful at the start. For sure.
And it really does show through in the product. Like they are beautiful products, but they also function so well. Like they do exactly what a light should do. And I think sometimes that form over function kind of wins a little bit too much when it comes to things that look pretty.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so you talked about like your dad and kind of being around furniture and timber really your whole life.
Mm.
How did you, is that really kind of where your love of working with natural timbers has come from?
Yeah, I definitely say so. Yeah, I mean, definitely grew up just running around that workshop and just seeing people making things with, with
Yeah,
their hands, all that sort of skilled expertise, and then sort of seeing that a beautiful product kind of at the end as well.
yeah,
But the timber really does like 99% of the work in making something look beautiful,
yeah.
but it's like almost too easy as long as you treat it right and kind of yeah, shape it and sand it and lacquer it all
Yeah.
correctly. Like you can't really go wrong. Um,
Do you have a
it's just
favorite, or
beautiful.
is
Yeah.
that like asking someone who their favorite child is?
Um, no, I definitely we use about 8 different species. Probably walnut. I think walnut at the moment is my
Yeah,
favorite.
yeah,
Yeah, more like the darker timbers. Every time we see like a walnut piece of timber, like a raw piece that then gets transformed into a light, it's just like, oh, that looks so different to the last one and just so like
yeah,
amazing. It's just
yeah.
so pretty and yeah, can't beat it at the moment. Mm.
So I imagine, like, I mean, like most businesses, but I can imagine for a product business, there are a lot of moving parts. Like
Mm.
as you said, like talking from sourcing the natural product and then forming that into the pendant itself, and then all the electrical side of it, and like keeping everything going, and then obviously being able to ship those products. Kind of, do they go globally? Do they go just over Australia? Like, what are some of the systems and processes that you have put in place over the 6 years you've been in business to ensure that it runs smoothly?
Mm. It definitely was a massive learning curve. I think like slowly over time, we just figured out all of the little things you have to do to kind of keep it like working.
Yeah.
We've got like, Excel spreadsheets to track all of the orders and because we've got so much custom choices, so many
Yeah.
custom choices. It's like if you don't really note it all down and really be careful, you'll just run out of a component or you've got to get all of these powder go to this color and got to get that cut to this size and there's
Yeah.
heaps, so many just little things to just keep track of.
Yeah.
So yeah, Excel or Google Sheets I'm using, yeah, in
Yeah.
the cloud. So crazy for Google Sheets, so everyone can kind of see where everything's up to from myself and then Bob, who's our lighting tech. He wires up the lights, so
Yeah.
he's got all the same data that I can see, and then um, Timmy, who's on timber machining, she can kind of see the same information. Um, yeah, and then sort of all the really boring but super important stuff like all your product codes for all the
Yeah.
componentry and just keeping track of all of that. Um, it's a lot more work than I would have, yeah, I anticipated, I think. Yeah,
And
paperwork, so much
yeah.
paperwork. Yeah.
And you've mentioned that your dad and mum have, like, you've been around small business really your
Mm.
whole life. Were they, did they give you some kind of pointers to kind of go, okay, these are some of the things you need to put in place when you started?
Um, I think here and there, yeah. I think just lots of little things, like the really important businessy stuff like submitting your tax and all of those things, superannuation. Don't
Yeah.
stuff those things up. Excuse me. So yeah, I think it was just lots of little like, oh, what? Just am I doing this right, or how do I do this? Um, but yeah, just yeah, lots of little nuggets of advice, I think, and
Yeah.
just generally, I think that enthusiasm to just kind of give it a go as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And because it's yeah risky and I probably yeah spent like a good 2 years like working probably two other jobs to kind of build it up to where I
Yeah.
thought, oh, this, I can actually make that a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those first few years were sort of like, a bit scary and a bit like, unknown. So they were just like encouraging, just, stick with it. It'll chip away at all of these tasks and you'll get there eventually. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And can you talk me through a little bit about your design process and how you go about creating a new part of the range?
Mm. Yeah, it's definitely really challenging because lighting's so not competitive, but there's a lot of light fittings on the market. Um, so it's definitely, I feel like I have probably 100 ideas that might be good, but then 95 ideas are already done or
Yeah.
too similar to something that I've seen. So you've got to try to find those ideas that you feel like you haven't really seen out there,
Yeah.
or yeah, things that are sort of, also I try and not design to trends as well,
Hmm.
which is also not tricky, but just got to be mindful of it when you're. I do a lot of sketching and drawing,
Yeah.
so just constantly kind of thinking of ideas, noting it down, coming back to it a few weeks later, just always kind of thinking about, like, I guess the final look of something, but also the components that we use and how we could do it differently, or how we could improve the light as a light fitting as well.
Yeah.
Um, hmm.
And how do you, because I imagine there are some limitations to timber as a material.
Mm.
How do you, I suppose, stretch the envelope a little bit of what you can get out of the timber? Like, are there certain things, like, is it trial and error? Do you kind of like get to a point where you can only sketch it so much and then you kind of got to go in and start making prototypes and all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it is different because most lighting, particularly like the linears, are very just like aluminium or
Yeah.
brass, very sleek. Like you can go very thin with metal, but
Yeah.
timber, you kind of have to inherently go a bit thicker on your little wall edges. And you can't go too thin because then if you want it to be 3 meters long, it's kind of
Yeah.
gets a little bit impossible.
Yeah.
So it definitely is, going through like the sketching process, CAD model it as well. We do a lot of quick kind of CAD explorations
Yeah.
for like the form and things. But at the end of the day, you really just have to physically prototype it to kind of see, how it, like visually as well, but how it kind of holds together and how it can be machined. Is it easy to make, or is it actually a terrible idea because it's so tedious to make? Or I've had quite a few of those where
Yeah.
I wasn't popular with a few ideas, but I
Yeah.
pushed along, and they're like, "This is terrible to make." Just discontinue it.
Yeah, and I
Yep.
suppose having your dad who's got that absolute wealth of knowledge of, years of
Mm.
experience of working with timber, I imagine that that is such an amazing kind of thing to have in your business because he might even be able to tell you, like, before you even start, don't even bother. That's not going to be, you're not going to be able to make that, or there's going to
Yeah,
be these problems, or
definitely.
even I imagine
Yeah.
like some things. Is it the kind of situation where some designs work better in some species of timber where others don't?
Yeah, sometimes. I think some timbers are definitely better at staying nice and straight, if
Yeah.
that's the design feature that you're going for, which is typically with the linears. No one really wants a banana or
Monkey.
a banana or a charro, we call them sometimes,
Yeah.
just like an organic thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's Victorian ash, and that's I think quite a straight growing tree. So
Yes.
that
Yeah.
typically produces like nice straight panels. Some timbers are terrible for keeping them straight. But yeah, definitely we try, just because we offer all of those custom options, we try and make sure that every timber will work for any design.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's too limiting in a way, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, Dad's definitely very valuable in,
Yeah.
yeah, all of his knowledge. He'll definitely tell you that's a terrible idea. Don't do that. He's always, yeah, he loves designers. Not really, but
Yeah.
because we have our crazy ideas that can't be made.
And so I know that you've recently brought in like a colored version of your pendant lights as well.
Yeah, yep.
So is that's kind of moving away, I suppose, from your heritage of, the timber.
Mm.
You, how did that process come about? Like, was that kind of from feedback that people were looking for that, or how did you decide to go down that path?
Yeah, it's not released yet, so I don't know if it'll be popular. So maybe you just won't, you'll never see it on the website, but no,
Yeah.
it should be. We'll give it a go. I think, uh, well, when we were at the design show in Sydney, we had heaps of people being like, "Oh, that looks amazing! Like, I love that. I could just get any color, and quite easily."
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that it will be something that people will really like catch on to.
Yeah.
I've sort of started to see some furniture brands more overseas offering some like chairs and tables in like a two pack
Yeah.
colored finish, like very
Yeah.
specific colors. But I haven't really noticed it like locally.
Yeah.
And I just kind of thought, oh, it seems like it'd be good to be like one of the first brands to kind of be like out there pushing it along.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
imagine that like that two pack it's a new process that you've brought into your business to do that. Is
Yeah.
that um like how have you navigated that? Like working out, does it disrupt the workflow too much? Does it like yeah, how have you kind of worked out, okay, we can accommodate this because it is a whole new kind of process for your business?
Yeah. It's I'm hoping it's not going to be too disruptive. We've only done a bunch of samples and a bunch of photo
Yeah.
like lights for photos so far. Um, it's just yeah, um, slightly different process because we typically use single pack lacquer,
Yeah.
which is a lot easier to sort of apply. It's not hazardous, but it's a bit more friendly for
Yeah.
the people around,
Yeah.
and easier to clean up as well. So just like very streamlined, and obviously if every light's getting the same finish, it's quite a lot easier.
Yeah.
But when this next light in the queue needs this green two pack, then
Yeah.
you've got to sort of switch to two pack first off, and then order the green, make sure you've got the green, and
Yeah.
spray the green.
Yeah.
So I think it probably will be a little bit annoying, but um, I think it'll be worth it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We're just giving it a go, I think, at this stage.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
suppose that's something where you kind of have to just, like for the business to grow and, there be more options in your offering, I
Mm.
suppose you do have to kind of push the boundaries a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's yeah, we sort of not struggle, but we don't release a lot of new products
Hmm.
just from like a time perspective, and it is takes a long time to develop a new light fitting.
Yeah.
I'd like to have, a bunch of designers and heaps of people just working on things all the time,
Yeah.
but not quite up to that yet.
Yeah.
So it's another way to kind of broaden what we do, but still within, what we've already got going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I think it should be quite interesting, and to see also because we've just done a few colors that I personally picked, but I'm certainly not an interior designer or a kind of color specialist. So I think some of the colors I chose are a bit gnarly. But if anyone wants to give me color advice, please do.
I
Um,
love that. I love
so we'll
that.
see what colors kind of people, you know, put their hand up for and say, I love this color. Because that's
Yeah.
kind of what we're trying to pitch, is just any custom color.
Yeah.
any paint color. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And you've mentioned a few times how you have a lot of parts of the light that you can custom. And I like, as
Mhm.
a customer, I can attest to that.
Mhm.
There would be a lot of companies that would be like, no, that's way too complicated. Like you get this and you get that, and you might be able to choose one other thing.
Mm.
What was the driver for wanting to make your lights so customizable?
Um, I think it's definitely a really good point of difference to just even other like local brands,
Yeah.
but it's definitely the one thing that we have over like imported lights as well or
Yeah.
products. Like if you're buying something from that's even small batch production, but obviously mass produced any light from like Beacon Lighting or many
Yeah.
other stores, like they're made by the thousands, put in boxes and sent over.
Yeah.
Like you're not ever going to get any level of
Yeah.
customization with those products. So I think that's where we had to go to try and be competitive against those brands
Yeah.
because they're always going to be bigger and better than you in their
Yeah.
marketing and they've got stores everywhere. So kind of like early on we were like, what can we do to give us a leg up against all those really big established brands
Yeah.
that are gonna steal most of our customers at the end of the day. So yeah, I think it's worked so far, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So you've also mentioned, and we've talked a little bit about how your dad is involved in your business.
hmm
How do you separate work from family life?
Um, we haven't had
Or is
too
there no
many
separation?
troubles. No, it's a bit of a separation, yeah. Um, yeah, we haven't had too much trouble. I think early on that's probably why I wanted to start my own business as well. I wasn't really working for him, more just like working alongside him.
Yeah.
And what we were doing was each kind of benefiting each other. Um, so I think that helped. Not, yeah, I think I probably inherited that from him, not being like sort of told what to do. We don't really like that. So I don't want him to tell me what to do, and he certainly doesn't want me to tell him what to do. So yeah, I think it's good that we have our own kind of roles and things going on, kind of stay out of each other's way on a bad day. So yeah, it's been fine, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, but really nice to work with him and kind of yeah, we when we sort of started to sell more lights early on, kind of was supporting his business as well. So that was really good. Kind of
Yeah.
building up the workshop that we've got now. And yeah, it
Yeah.
was nice to kind of be like, oh, I can pay you for these lights, Dad. It's like, oh, all right, finally. That was
I
years
love
ago,
that.
but
I love that. I love
yeah.
that. And so, does he still build furniture?
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Wow.
got a separate business called Currumbin Woodworks.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously in Currumbin. Yeah, so it's all solid timber, um, yeah, all custom made furniture, like freestanding furniture
Yeah.
for the most part. Yeah.
Oh, how
Yeah, so
beautiful.
every day he's in the workshop making something. Sometimes lights, mostly lights, and then some furniture as well.
Oh, lovely. So nice.
Hmm.
So tell me, what are you looking forward to in the next 12 months with Fluxwood?
Um, well, we're definitely we're moving our workshop. So we sort of started out um, 6 years ago. We were wiring up the lights upstairs at my dad's workshop, which is pretty much a same different street round the corner from where we are now.
Yeah.
So we sort of separated after a year because it was quite noisy and dusty and not great for the electrical side.
Yep.
And there wasn't quite enough space for both of us at the
Yeah.
time. So it's like rented another place. But yeah, we sort of made the move to merge again. We're doing like a bit of a renovation at his workshop. So we're doing
Yeah.
a cute little showroom.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so I've been busy doing that. And so we're probably just going to get settled in there and finish the showroom for the rest of this year, as well as hopefully working on some new design concepts and prototypes as well, which we're always doing that, but we're sort of trying to push it along so that we actually release some new things this year. Yeah.
And is this, so that you mentioned like having a showroom, is this your first foray into kind of a retail space?
Yeah, I suppose so. Our current, the office where I am now, it kind of had like a weird little showroom that I wouldn't really call it a showroom, but we had all the lights hanging up.
Yeah.
And people would come here. It'd sort of feel bad if they drove from Brisbane. And like, welcome to my showroom. More of an office, but here's some lights. So I think, yeah, it's super exciting to actually put some thought into it, because it's a new, at the moment, it's just stud frame walls and
Yeah.
concrete floor. So it's kind of a blank canvas to do something kind of that represents the brand and hopefully looks really nice, but yet to be properly designed. But yeah,
Awesome.
so yeah, it is definitely the first sort of proper go at a showroom for sure.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that is a very exciting 12 months you've got coming up.
Yeah, yeah, it should be good. Yep.
Awesome. Oh, thank you so much for joining me today, Shari. I have really enjoyed our chat and understanding the Fluxwood story a little bit more. As I said, I've used your
Thank you.
product in several of my projects, and they're just beautiful lighting. So thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, great to speak to you.
Thank you for listening to this design dialogue. I hope you have found it full of inspiration and helpful information to take into your design studio. If you like the podcast and want to hear more, consider sharing it or writing a review, as it helps us reach more people, and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. If you would like to unlock the power of effortless studio management and elevate your design business to new heights, please follow the links in our show notes to see how more time to design can help you build a better business. Have a great week, and I will see you for our next design dialogue.